Hello everybody, today is going to be part 6 of What If Deku Had All For One. Here we go. Zuko, on his way to the beach, sees Shinso shadowboxing and doing other moves by, for example, grabbing buckets of sand and lifting them because he needs to learn how to lift and get more muscle mass. Because, yes, those robots may or may not have an off mechanism, but it's going to be difficult finding that off mechanism in those robots to pass the test. And Shinso says, "You're finally here. Here. And Izuku says, "I presume you didn't sleep last night." And Shinso says, Izuku laughs and says, "Really, Shinso?" And Shinso says, "Are we going to train today, or are you going to tease me about my sleep schedule?" And Izuku says, Fine. Do you want to do normal training, or do you want to see how my quirks work? My new quirks work. And Shinso says, "Sure, or it wouldn't hurt." And Izuku says, "I'm not going to use full power, but you're still going to feel the effects. Just bloody use it." And Izuku turns his eyes turn to white. And Shinso feels a feeling of cold all over his body. And Izuku says, "Can you fight like this?" And Shinso says, "Dang, it's fucking cold." And Izuku turns off his quirk, and Shinso says, "Oh, dang, wow. You could easily give someone hypothermia with that." And Izuku, from God knows where, he grabs a notebook and says, "How did it exactly feel?" Oh, Shinso says, "It felt like being thrown into a fridge, or a little bit better than that, but not like much." Huh. Do you think you could fight like that if you needed to? Probably. I'm probably going to need to. Ooh, just in case. Ace. Let me just use those two quirks instead of the normal ones I normally do. Ooh, so you can actually learn how to fight in weathered combat, because you're probably going to need to fight in a fire or save people in a fire. So, yeah. And a few hours later, after Shinso and Izuku train with each other by basically looking up martial arts videos on the internet, and yes, it's not the best solution, but they both say, "Hey, we're too cheap to go find an actual dojo that ain't discriminatory." Alright. And after that, Shinso says, "Wow, Izuku, how do you have so much stamina? Do you have a stamina quirk or something?" And Izuku says, "No, not to my knowledge." Wait. Shinso says, "That's a rhetorical question, but if you do, you're a cheat." Izuku says, "Hey." And Shinso says, "You're not changing my mind. If you get an endurance quirk, we're going to need to find a different way of training, because I can't keep up with you without one." And Shinso laughs, but Izuku can tell that Shinso feels a lot weaker compared to Izuku. Izuku can just tell, but Shinso's just too nice to say that. And Izuku says, "Shinso, I don't see you as weaker than me. You have a very powerful quirk, and we are friends, even though, yes, I might have more quirks and, technically speaking, be more powerful. But you could still you still put up a good fight. And also the fact that I know your somewhat fighting style. And the fact that, well, you're my friend. And Shinso says, you cinnamon roll. Anyway, good question, Shinizuku. Have you heard that or the Immortal Hero, was going back to UA as a vice principal? Zuku says, really? I heard that he was going on a mission in, I believe, the United States for a while. Yeah. Yeah. I heard that too, honestly. Do you think it's true that Immortal's been around since the first quirks? Zuku says, I don't know, but I'd be curious. Yes. And Shinso says, I'd be curious learning from him because I heard he is the vice principal and the history 101 teacher for every course. And Zuku says, that makes sense. And anyway, let's keep training. And they both keep training for the rest of the day. And Shinso says, while drinking a water bottle, Azuki's drinking a water bottle, Shinso says, I have a friend that's heard about your program, but doesn't know how to contact you. Do you? Ooh, with a quirk. But I don't know if you might want this or not. Azuku takes the water bottle out of his mouth and says, shoot. His quirk is called, basically, multi-limbs. Where basically, he has 4 limbs. And honestly, for him, he's had them since he was born. But he was in the orphanage with me, and he said that he would not mind if he got a good shake out of it. And Zuku says, how about 40,000 yen? And contact with him, and I would be willing to. Shinso says, sure, I can contact him. And Shinso contacts him, the friend, Orohito Monjima Nama, and Monjima says, Monjima says, hey, Shinso, have you heard back from your super friend, your powerful friend? And Shinso says, he doesn't like being called more powerful than other people. And the guy on the other end of the phone from Shinso says, Shinso, I've heard stories of, I believe, it might be his father or maybe his grandfather or whoever in his family with the exact same quirk. Guess who he is? Who? You've heard of the all for one on myths. Even if Izuku was related to him, he's no different than anyone else. Yes, he might have a strong quirk, or a villainous quirk, but that doesn't mean anything. And Monjima says, fine, I'm not going to say anything about that anyway. Where can I meet this friend? And he says that he's willing to give you 45,000 yen for the quirk. And Mojima says, cool, I presume you're at Dogoba? And Shinso says, yep, I am. About half an hour later, Mojima comes down the and Zuku with his mother, because she's the one that basically has the legal capability of making sure neither people don't get in trouble for his quirk use. Izuku says, thanks to the fact that you want your quirk gone, I have to say this now. Do you want your quirk, me to take your quirk for 45,000 yen? Yes. Yes, I do. Okay. Izuku puts his hand on his shoulder, and Izuku takes his quirk, and it takes a bit because it's a mutation, and he's not forcefully doing it. Well, he is and isn't. And the guy says, "Whoa, it feels weird not having 4 arms." Arms. And Izuku says, "Thank you. Here's the 45,000 yen." And Majima says, "Yo, thank you for the money and lack of quirk. Now I need to file the fact that I am quirkless now." Oh. And Izuku says, "I understand that being quirkless isn't fun. I can tell you that now. Oh, don't worry. I believe I have a hunch that I'm going to maybe get a job out of Japan. And anyway, so and what I heard in some countries, being quirkless gives you better opportunities there." And Benjamin leaves. And Izuku says, "Huh, 4 arms. Interesting." And Inko says, Hmm. Zuko, would you want a lot of strength quirks?" Zuko says, I honestly don't mind whatever quirk I get, honestly." And Shinso says, "How did it go?" And Izuku says, "Pretty well, honestly. It feels weird having 4 arms, plus the fact I'm using strong body with this quirk and rubber body. So it feels weird, but I think I can make it work." Interesting. Anyway, see you later, Izuku. See you later. Don't forget, we have the UA entrance exam in 2 months. Don't forget either. And Izuku and Inko head home, and they both see a note on the front door. It says, "Note from Dad." The front line says, "Inko and Izuku. I'm sorry I haven't been there for you guys. I understand that you now know, Izuku, my life. And let's just say, when I was as a younger man, and still now, I was somewhat of a bad person. And some people may still consider me a bad person. But that doesn't mean I don't love you guys. I very much do. And I will be coming back to you soon." And signed, Joshi Midoriya / All For One. And Zuku says, from what I've heard from you, Dad isn't a bad person, right?" Inko says, "No, he isn't. It's just the fact that his things he's done are probably." And both of them head inside, and Izuku says, "I'm gonna head to bed. I've done a lot today." And Inko says, "Yeah, go ahead, sweetie. Plus, you need that recovery time." End a video. I know I might sound like a robot, but I'm just thinking this on the spot.